Hello everybody and welcome to Le Mans for the second round of the World Sportscar Championship, brought to you by WSR. Last time out we had a nail-biting finish at Sebring as Piers Pride just ran out of laps to catch and pass Nathan Moore, giving the latter an opening round win. Now we've travelled across the Atlantic to Le Mans, where many sportscar dreams have come true in the past, but whose ambitions will be realised today. Let's find out as we welcome you to RaceSpotTV's coverage of this 90-minute race through the French countryside. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Peter Mackay for this race and indeed the season from here on in. It's great to have you alongside me for this one, Peter. It's a great place to go as well for round two of our championship. What a venue this is, and what a challenge it's going to be for each of the more than 40 drivers lining up here this evening.
Well, it's fantastic to be here, Ewan. Thank you. And well, LMP stands for Le Mans Prototype. The LMP3s, we don't see them in the 24 hours of Le Mans, but we do see them in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. So it's a car that is built with this circuit in mind, and it's going to be fantastic to see them mix it with the GT4 machinery out there tonight. A little bit of an interesting mix we haven't seen before.
It's certainly so. We are going to Le Mans for the second round. This is kind of in a North American sandwich, if you like, with Sebring and Watkins Glen on either side of us. We've got Monza, Spa and Daytona to come later on in the season as well, running us all the way up to the start of December, when we will know the first names of the winners of the World Sports Car Championship for our first season, of course. Let's take a look at the standings as they run right now. It's not too imperative to be up there after round one, I suppose, but it is telling of the race results last time out. And of course it was Nathan Moore who took the win in LMP3 Pro. Piers Pride just running out of laps, as I mentioned there, to get that win. Jurgen Frank joined them on the podium with Thomas King and Corentin Guinez also inside the top five. Daniel Sesley, who had a good run in his qualifying session actually for Le Mans here, he finished sixth last time out in Pro ahead of Matthew Gauthier at Taunton. Then John Williams, Christoph Waitz and Stuart Bickley rounding out the top 10 in Pro. These are the AM standings. It was still as Craig Vrolik who won that race ahead of Hughes Boomeister. Mac McFarquhar was third ahead of John Roberts and Toby Ward inside the top five. Andy Jones and Baron Glover were next ahead of Anton Oman and Paul Joseph Clist, with Bruno Mello rounding out the top 10 in LMP3 AM. By the way, these points are all configured off of classes. Split by LMP3 and GT4, so that's why you see less points available for those in the AM categories, but more points to these in the pros, and Eric Grove was top of them at Sebring. Richard Simner was second out of Michael Hafliderson in third, then Jaroslav Sebula and Jonathan Walker to round out the top five. Matthew Crisp and Andy Shield were sixth and seventh, ahead of Rafael Drasas, and then it was Guy Edwards and Jack Osborne rounding up the top 10 in Pro. And then mixed among them were the AMs, of course, headed by Josh Boot. Jock Wilkins is tied on points with him after only a round. Evangelos Natfas, is in third place, ahead of Lee Berridge and Matty Wild. Havlidi Johansson is in sixth, ahead of our very own Paul Smith, who will be impartially cheering on here tonight. Gary McFarlane is in eighth, ahead of Howard Hassan and Adam Locke inside the top 10 there in the GT4 AMs. Just to round things off, the Teams Championship, which works a little bit strangely. It's not an accumulation, rather a sort of taking the best point score, if you like, from each round, and it can go across classes as well. Pure Sims Esports at the top of those at the moment, ahead of GTA Pink. Then AI Race Summaries, DCW Racing Yellow, which is a mouthful. They're in third, ahead of SimRC, who are fourth. AM Racing Team Alcantech are in fifth, ahead of GTA Red. Then Semper Racing and Freem UK, Olympus Esports, and Pure Sims with World Sim Racing round at the top 10 in the team's standings. So those are all your points and your standings at the end of only a round, so it doesn't matter too much as to where everybody is. And it doesn't really matter after round 2 as well. But as you were saying to me, Peter, before the broadcast, that if you lose out and you lose points, there's not actually that much time to gain it all back again. A 6-round championship puts a lot of pressure on each driver.
That it does, yeah, and you want to really try and just get those points on the board early, coming from the back foot, not where you want to be at all. So this is an important qualifying session here at Le Mans. We've got an hour and a half race, but if you lose the lead pack, because there's got so many long straights here at Le Mans, if you lose the leading pack, you lose their slipstream, you then wipe out your chances of scoring a win, or in many cases even a podium. So we think the fuel strategy should be fairly straightforward, with 2 pit stops in the middle of the race for over the 1.5 hours. But yeah, this qualifying session, really, really important, and so easy to just dip a wheel over, break track limits, your lap time is deleted, and you've got to go all the way around again to try again.
And the thing about this in terms of strategy as well is going to be avoiding a third stop. We were talking a little bit before about 7 laps possibly for the GT4s. We've been handed some information, of course. 7 laps would put these drivers roughly at 30 minutes and a bit, or just around the 30-minute mark. And obviously 30 minutes times by 3 is exactly an hour and a half. You don't want this race to go on one lap longer than maybe you were expecting, forcing you to do a 22nd lap in this race if you're a GT4, because then you might have to come in for a splash and dash of only 1 lap of fuel, and that will be frustrating at the end of this race. So far, and as we come towards the end of this session, 38 drivers have qualified. That leaves us with 9 drivers who have yet to or won't set a lap time in this qualifying session, and will be starting from the back, but including our own Paul Smith, of course. But as we were saying earlier, this is a race you can kind of ease yourself into here at Le Mans. You don't want to lose that front pack, of course, but if you're just looking to get through the day, then it is a race where you can slowly build yourself up and stay out of trouble early on, try and make up a few places later when things start to spread out a little bit.
Well, if you are starting from back in the grid, that's really what you're going to have to bank on, is attrition ahead of you, because making big moves up through the field at Le Mans is quite tricky with the nature of the circuit.
Let's have a look then at the end of the qualifying session at how we'll be lining up for this 1 hour and a half race here at Le Mans. We're set for the second round of the World Sportscar Championship, brought to you by World Sim Racing, of course. And it's going to be another chapter in what's going to be a great story for the first ever sports car season that we've had at the World Sports Car season that we've had in the WSR. So yeah, great to be along with you once again, and hope we're going to see a similar race to what we saw, or even maybe even better than the one we got at Sebring, with a very tight margin between Nathan Moore and Piers Pryor at the end of 90 minutes there. It was nail-biting right to the very end. Let's see. We've still got just over a minute until the session officially will move on. Don't know if there's anybody still out there actually setting lap times. Don't think there is, but we are just waiting for that to tick over for the moment. It was late lap times, though, for those at the very front. Nathan Moore only setting his best lap time a minute or so ago, or maybe a little bit longer than that, but time had certainly elapsed by the time he set his last lap time. And interestingly, the top 3 from the Sebring race are all at the front here in qualifying as well for Le Mans, so that's good to see for them, and not a particular surprise either, because you'd expect those two have done well in round 1 will do well here as well. Just wonder what a different race this is going to be, though, because of the length of the circuit. Is traffic going to play less of a role maybe than it did at Sebring, where things felt a little bit claustrophobic at times in the first round?
I do think traffic is going to be easier this time out, Ewan, especially with the separation between the two, the P3 group and the GT4s.
Let's take a quick look at the grid, and I'll try and bang through these for you because there are nearly 50 of them. Nathan Moore and Jurgen Frank are on the front row, ahead of Piers Pryor and Ethan Critchley. Will be Nicholas Hyder and Thomas King on row 3. 7th place will be Matthew Gurnier-Taunton, and Daniel Sesley will join him in 8th, with Christoph Bates and Gurgly Consabo rounding out the 10 LMP3 pros. Of course, they'll be mixed in with the LMP3 AMs, who are, of course, headed by Ben Gregory, used Poymaster, who finished the race at Sebring in second, will start this one from second. Macwick Farquhar, same goes for him, he's third. John Roberts qualifies fourth, ahead of Denise Pope and Baron Glover, who will be sharing row 3. And then in the 7th position, it will be Toby Ward and Andy Jones. Still Craig Vrolik, who won at Sebring, only down in 9th here after not qualifying. Nicholas Salapoutis is in 10th, ahead of Paul Joseph Gliston, Anton Oman, also who did not qualify here at Le Mans. Those are your 22 LMP3s. That leaves us with a few more GT4s to look through, headed by Eric Grove of Pure Sims SimLab. Matthew Crisp will be second, ahead of Andy Shue and Michael Havlitzen Hausler in 4th. Jack Osborne and Ben Palmer will share row 3 for the GT4s. In the 7th position, it's Christopher Smith and Richard Simner, who's qualified a little bit further down than where he finished a few weeks ago. Johnny Slater and Paul Zanatacci will round out the top 10. Guy Edwards, just over 4 seconds back, is 11th, ahead of Rafael Drozas for Semper Racing and their Aston Martin team. And then we will have the rest of the GT4s, of course, made up by the GT4 AMs. Josh Boot heading them here, ahead of Howard Hassan, who's 8 tenths down. Jeroen Kaiser is third, ahead of Evangelos Natofas. Mark Collicott will be 5th, ahead of Adam Locke in the Quartermass Motorsport Aston Martin. Jack Wilkins will be alongside Gary McFarlane on row 4, ahead of Philip Bjork and Haflidi Johansson in the top 10. Paul Smith did not qualify and will start from 11th alongside Matty Wild in 12th, and then down at the back. That will be it, because that's 47 of them on the grid here. That's your grid. There they all are in all their glory as the sun beats down on the French countryside here this evening. 90 minutes at Le Mans on the clock here, and we're very much excited for getting this one underway. It's a nicely formed grid, lots of big names on it as well, of course, and we're looking forward to what's going to be a very exciting race.
Hearing the agricultural rumble of these 5.6 litre Nissan derived V8s that go in the back of these LMP3 cars. We have the Ligier here on the iRacing platform. You can go to other manufacturers as well, Duquesne being another one that you see in the European Le Mans series and Michelin Le Mans Cup, etc. But the Ligier with the big 5.6 litre in the back, very, very nice machines as well. Wonderful package, carbon monocoque chassis, great handling, pretty smooth power delivery as well. It's not a very highly stressed engine. You feel these engines, and they could go on forever with the amount of power they produce for the capacity.
And you get the feeling as well that, or you certainly get the feeling in real life sometimes, that these cars get a bit of a bad reputation. But in iRacing, you know, that they're more than up to the challenge. They're fantastic to drive. They sound great as well, by the way. We'll get the full experience of that over the course of tonight. But yeah, sometimes in real life they get a bad reputation. But I'm glad to see that in iRacing they've been taken up very well, and participation so far has been great for these LMP3s.
It has been fantastic to see. Yes, their virtual reputation definitely better than the real world one. In fact, it's actually the opposite way around, where you get the top class cars which cause the most problems in the virtual world as well. So yeah, looking forward to seeing some high class motor racing, and I do think traffic management won't be an issue. The big circuit like we have here at Le Mans, and I think the prototypes will be able to get through on the GTs quite easily, I think.
Well, let's see as the pace car pulls in towards the four chicanes, the final corners of this circuit, and the drivers at the front will pull onto the front straight to begin the race. Nathan Moore in control of the field and will go immediately out of the final corner. We are green at Le Mans for 90 minutes of racing in the World Sportscar Championship here for round number 2. It's Nathan Moore who gets off to a good start after pole sitting this one, of course. Jurgen Frank for SimRC just tucks in behind. Third place for him a few weeks ago, looking for better here, starting his race off in second position. Piers Pryor is in third, just ahead of Ethan Critchley, then Nicholas Hyder. The top 5 in the rest of the field indeed seem to be off to a clean start in LMP3.
Nathan Moore really putting it on the line here on cold tyres, trying to get a little bit of a break from the field. Meanwhile, the GT4s making their way down to the opening chicane, the Dunlop chicane, and then back on the power for the run towards the Forest S's and Tete Rouge. And in the GT4s, off the line cleanly in pole position. It's Eric Grove for Pure Sims Racing in that Aston Martin, the big V8 Vantage with the 4-litre twin turbocharged engine. Very similar engine to the chasing Mercedes. Seems to be the car to have at the moment.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I'm afraid to say there's been an incident, I think at Tete Rouge maybe, but it's been up front in the LMP3s, I'm afraid to say. Piers Pryor and also Jurgen Frank have both been involved, because the fight for second is now between Ethan Critchley and Nicholas Hyder already. Piers Pryor has plummeted through the order early on in this one, I'm afraid to say, and is still falling. Let's have a look at the front of the LMP3s again. It's been a good start for the pole sitter Nathan Moore, who's got a car length and maybe even on the fringes of breaking the slipstream already, which would be very impressive to see at the end of, well, not even at the end of the opening lap, but only partway through it. We now go down towards Mulsanne corner. You can see that gap there. That might well be enough to have broken the slipstream already. There's a group of 4 behind, maybe trying to bring him back.
Well, this would be a huge boost if Nathan Moore was able to break the toe of the chasing pack on the opening lap. It would be almost unheard of for a start, but would be such a boost, because then he can run his own race and he's not towing along his rival. So there's the incident at Tete Rouge. And that was the 22 car.
Piers Pryor.
LMP3. Piers Pryor. Goodness, second in the championship. Well, that's one very damaged Ligier.
Yeah, front left suspension gone there, as well as the front nose as well. Just got into the back of Frank, didn't he, on the way out of Tete Rouge there, and got unsettled into the wall as well, and that will be hefty repairs for him. Not sure if he has escaped or whether he's going to... I think he's actually driving around, so he's going to do repairs the manual way, if you like, and drive around, but just need to be careful that he doesn't get picked up by someone along the way and hit by someone as he makes his way back to pit lane, but I'm sure he will be absolutely fine. Battle for the lead in LMP3 AM is pretty close between Ben Gregory and McFarquhar, who's just pulled alongside. They're just inside the top 10 of the two of them on the way in towards the Porsche curse. It looks like McFarquhar has gotten his way through into 9th overall and ahead of Gregory for the lead in AM. You've got Baumeister just in behind as well. The podium sitters there, if you like, absolutely locked together, nose to tail for them. But out front, it's Nathan Moore who's got 2 seconds. Oh, and there's Ben Gregory off the road. The leader in LMP3 AM, most of the way around the first lap, has found himself in the gravel at Corvette there.
Oh dear, and found himself engulfed by the chasing pack there, as Ben Gregory had not the best start to the season in round 1. Was hoping there to get a good start to the second round, but not so, unfortunately. But back on terra firma, and it doesn't appear to be nursing any damage, which is the main thing. Nathan Moore, what an opening lap, 2.3 seconds ahead of Ethan Critchley, and that is enough to break the gap. And now the thing is, Ewan, is that Nathan Moore, if he needs to do any fuel saving, he can do so and maintain the gap to the chasing pack. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, he's in a great place early on here. This is a replay of what happened to Ben Gregory at Corvette. He's right behind McFarquhar there and just loses it himself, loses the rear end and slides into the gravel. He's gotten away with it there, really, in that he didn't hit anything, but he has lost a fair amount of time. Oh, and someone else off at Tete Rouge now. One of the cars inside the top 10, was it Denise Pope maybe who spun around there? Not sure, but there was an LMP3 off to drivers right there off of Tete Rouge, and we're already seeing that Le Mans is not just about the Mulsanne straight, it's not just about the slipstream, but there is big technical challenges as well to this circuit, as we're 3 wide, by the way, with Ben Gregory. He's in the yellow and orange and grey, if you like, on the inside at the first chicane. I think he took 2 for the price of 1 there.
Great move there from Ben Gregory, trying to bounce back as quickly as possible from that little mistake coming out of Corvette. But yeah, Tete Rouge is such a challenging corner because lots of things can go wrong there. You can either just be too conservative and not carry enough speed. You can step over track limits and get a slowdown penalty, which is even worse. Or, most worst of all, you can clip the curb in the wrong place, spin, and you're in the wall. So you're absolutely right, Ewan. It is not just a drag strip here at Le Mans. It has such nuanced difficulty to it that you've really got to master, and what makes it so special. Because when you look at the track map and you would look at it and go, well, that looks a fairly boring track, but it's anything but.
Absolutely, especially to race on. By the way, I think it was Christoph Waitz actually who went off at Tetrus this time. On that occasion, not Denise Pope, which is good to see, but yeah, unfortunately, Weitz has gone off the road there, I believe. But in the GT4s, it's actually been a calmer and more considered start from everybody. There is Eric Grove in the Aston Martin for Pure Sim SimLab. You can just see at the front. Just in behind is the Mercedes of Michael Hufflitz and Hausler in second. There he is in the 81. Andy Scheel is in third. Then it's Ben Palmer and Jack Osborne to round out the top 5 there in GT4. And I've got to say that this is more of a start that I was expecting to see from the LMP3s actually, and from both of the categories. Things staying together at the front, slipstreaming, trains happening up and down the field. You know, it's not super close together, but Hausler's certainly in the draft there, and so is Scheel, and maybe even you could count the top 5 in a bit of a leading group at the moment.
The biggest surprise for me, Ewan, is simply the opening lap performance of Nathan Moore. The gap's now up to 3 seconds, so as soon as that slipstream was broken, that made his life so much easier, and he's really taken full advantage of that now, up to 3 seconds. This is his race to lose now. The only caveat to that would be is that he cannot push flat out. I think there will be some fuel saving required. That's the only thing that the chasing pack can bank upon, is that they'll hope that Nathan Moore uses way more fuel than they do and they catch back up in the stops with less time at the pump. But right now, Nathan Moore playing himself into a blinding position right now in the second round of the championship. Great to see 3 manufacturers in the top 3 in GT4 as well. Aston Martin leading from Mercedes, and McLaren there in third. 3 marques that have all won here at Le Mans over the years.
And of course, it's especially good to see for Aston Martin actually, because that GT4 has been a little bit unfancied in years gone past, but it's doing more than all right at the moment. Eric Grove won at Sebring with that car, of course. It was Porsche in second on that day, by the way. Richard Simno, who did qualify quite all right in GT4. He's found himself quite a long way down now, in 22nd overall in GT4. Now that of course includes AM, so he won't quite be all the way down there when that all shakes out, but he has lost 11 places off of the start here at Le Mans. Let's go back up front though. Nicholas Hyder, Thomas King and Matthew Goodyear Taunton are all fighting for second place right now. There is Nathan Moore just up front, who set a new fastest lap, by the way, on that last lap. You won't be surprised to learn, but it's a real changed look to the front of this field compared to what we saw at the start. Only at the start of lap 3, of course, but Nathan Moore continues to grow this gap to almost 3 seconds now. It's growing by nearly a second a lap. Well, at the front of the field, yeah, it's just really impressive performance so far. We have seen Piers Pryor get back going again. He is circulating, but he's a good couple of minutes off he's 2.5 minutes off the lead at the moment. We're not anticipating any safety cars, but if he did, he's on the lead lap, which helps. But let's hope we're not getting a safety car, and otherwise we're going to be filling for all we're worth, because it'll take a long time to get them bunched back up again. Yeah. As commentators of the real life Le Mans 24 Hours learnt this weekend, months ago. This year, yes. It takes a very long time, and the rest of this race may be taken up by a safety car, so let's hope that doesn't happen. This is one of the McLarens a bit further back for Pure Sims in the 007. That is Andy Scheel, who's lost out on a few places now. He was running inside the podium places earlier on, but as soon as we looked away from him, things went wrong for him, unfortunately. So from running in third, he's now down in 7th in class, and That means 9th in the GT4 AM category, oh sorry, 8th in the GT4 overall category, I should say, because the GT4 AM leader, Josh Boot, is in 6th place, just further in front. This is how it happened. I think he actually, by the looks of things from up here, got into second briefly, but he's been hit from the rear there on the way out of the first chicane, and that, well, I don't really know what he was doing, because he didn't seem to be using the full bit of the road on the left-hand side there, as you normally would.
Interesting. Maybe just trying to be careful of the incident points. Looked like it was one of the Fat Atom Porsches that got into the back of him. Was that even Jack Osborne, would it?
Yeah, possibly.
Got into the back, yeah. So it's going to be tricky for the Porsche and the McLaren, I think, at this circuit, because they make up their lap time under braking and in the corners. They've got very, very good chassis, but because of the balance of performance, then don't get the engine, the straight line performance. The complete opposite is the case for the Aston Martin and for the Mercedes. So it's this is going to be a tough event. Monza will be the same for the for the Porsche and for the McLaren. However, places like Sebring, etc., they're much better. Spa, they're much better for cars with a little bit better chassis performance.
Ethan Critchley is into the pit lane already now, so that's a bit of a surprise as he comes in. Ben Gregory did briefly make up a place on one of the drivers, but that's fallen back again now. Ethan Critchley, though, in the pit lane, and that's a very early stop. Less than 15 minutes into this one. We're expecting them to go half an hour pretty much here in the LMP3s, unless he's decided from very early that he wants to make a 3-stop here this evening. That would be against the run of the rest of the field, you would argue, but could work out for him a little bit later on as he's missing out on all this fuel saving that's going on. Nicholas Heider leading Thomas King, then Gunnar Taunton and Jurgen Frank as well in the other Simar C car. So lots of fuel saving going on there, and here as well as Broomeister just saves a little bit of fuel behind Kunsabo in that 6th position. He's 8th overall in LMP3 and 7th in the LMP3 Pro category. But plenty of fuel saving going on now. We've settled in really 15 minutes into this 90-minute race now, and everybody's starting to worry about fuel a little bit now and make sure that they're going to be on the wrong side of that 2/3 stop equation.
And the difference when you're following somebody compared to being the car at the front of the pack is enormous in the amount of fuel you use. If you can just settle in behind a driver who's a similar pace to you, as long as they're not holding you up too much, it is perfect to just sit there, and you can sometimes actually be at 90% throttle and still be maintaining speed, and before into each braking zone you can have a big old lift out of the throttle and then hit the brakes a little bit later in order to use less fuel. And that's what it's all about. The less fuel that you can use, as you rightly say, and it can be the difference between a 2 or a 3-stop strategy. And in the context of iRacing without a safety car, two stops is always going to trump 3 in this case. But if everybody is on a 2-stop, this fuel saving is still worth it because you have less time at the fuel pump.
Yeah, even if you don't save a lap around here, you can save quite a lot of fuel in terms of time that you have to put in a little bit later on. So, especially at the final stop, which we did eventually see Nathan Moore really gain from at Sebring, actually. It was those pit stop phases that really gave us so much intrigue a few weeks ago at the opening round of our season. In the end, Nathan Moore played the strategy right and had the tools on the circuit as well to take home the win. He still leads here by nearly 6 seconds now ahead of Nicholas Heider, who's put a bit of a gap now into those behind him, because Jurgen Frank has got ahead of Thomas King and Mathieu Gunter Taunton in the 5th place now. So Frank has taken 2 places on this lap and is now chasing down his teammate Sim RC, now 2 and 3 as it turns out, with the others 3 and 4 further back in this group. But I'm not sure if Nicholas Heider's just pushed on here or whether the guys in 4th and 5th have just taken their foot off the gas slightly, because we are speaking about fuel and being a little bit worried about fuel. How long can they go? Well, that's still a mystery to us. However, the Sim RC guys don't seem to be saving too much. Heider and Frank are all of a sudden a little bit quicker than the other 2 they've been fighting with.
still in awe of what Nathan Moore is doing at the top of the field, because the pace from second onwards is hardly slow. Now there's a little bit of gamesmanship if I've ever seen it. Jurgen Frank just dropping back to now. Has he got a slow down penalty because he's lost the leading pack? I think Jurgen Frank's got a slow down penalty there.
Yeah, I think he must have done.
Because there's one thing dropping to the back of the pack, and then there's losing it entirely, and that's what's happened to Jurgen Frank there. Unless he can really get a shift on.
Yeah, he's lost it entirely. I think he'll get there again, but yeah, not ideal at all really for the German, who finished on the podium at Sebring and has been around this team and sim racing generally for a very long time. There is the closing again. He's yeah. The other two are a bit suspect at the moment for me, King and Gunnar Taunton. I think they're saving fuel compared to the others. We're 4 laps in, by the way, and the LMP3s will need to do 8 in a stint if they want to make only 2 stops here this evening. This is a look at the Porsche Cayman of Josh Boot, who is leading the GT4 AM category and is in the top 5 in the GT4s overall. It's a fantastic lead that he has at the moment, and a show of his pace as well, that he's able to mix it with such fantastic GT4 Pro drivers as well. Johnny Slater and Chris Smith at the moment are the ones struggling to find a way through.
And even more amazing for Josh Boot, because this is not the circuit that suits that Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport. It's that is a car that works well at circuits like Road Atlanta, Knock Hill, places like that. Really narrow technical circuits, whereas big horsepower circuits, it's not really the car to have. The car queued up behind it, the big Mercedes with the honking V8 in the front of it, and that's more what you need on this type of circuit like Le Mans. But Josh Boot just showing there through the chicane just how stable the little Porsche is though as well, and how much more corner speed it can take. But tell you what, he's got it trimmed out though, because he's able to carry that speed out of the chicane and keep the Mercedes at bay.
Yeah, and of course it's not all about engine power. Efficiency is good too. We speak about the McLaren, for example, not the most powerful of engines out of the field, but it certainly is the most aerodynamically designed, at least visually it looks like it, and it does have good straight line speed as well. That goes for the GT3 iteration, which always has had that DNA, and it seems to have crossed over to the GT4 as well. It doesn't have bad straight line speed itself. This is a look at Eric Grove at the main part of your screen from up above. Of course, he was being hounded by the likes of Haflidassen earlier, and Ben Palmer as well, Jack Osborne. They were all relatively close, but no longer. They are not quite as close to him anymore, and he seems to have control of this race, does Eric Grove at the front of GT4 Pro, 1.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field for now. Even despite the fact they had the slipstream on him earlier, he's still been able to break that gap open, and he'll look to have a similar drive to what he was able to manage at Sebring, where he did pretty much dominate the race ever since Andy Scheel was taken out in an incident on the back straight.
Gergely Kuhn-Sabo in the middle of a pack here for Wild Things Racing, the number 11 machine, 7th in LMP3 Pro at the moment, but got a good kind of front gunner here in the form of Mac McFarquhar.
Oh,
actually, whoa.
That's very late on the brakes for McFarquhar, and he is going to be overtaken there. I mean, it's a difficult braking zone in towards turn 1. Well, I don't know which one to call turn 1, to be honest. The right-hander just beforehand, or the actual braking zone and the left-hander of the chicane. It's hard to know, but as you're going around that...
Definitely the fast right.
Okay, we'll go with the fast right.
If that's not a corner, I don't know what is.
Well, yeah, I just don't want to slip into naming everything. But yes, as you're going around that right-hander, you're sort of thinking already about starting to slow down, and unfortunately for McFarquhar, it just got that little bit wrong, broke a little bit too late. He has at least been able to hold on to his lead because Baumeister wasn't able to get the run out of Tetrousse to take that away from him, and he wasn't able to get the slipstream of Kunsabo either, which would have given him the place. But McFarquhar holds on to the lead in LMP3 AM at least. There is a leading battle here though, the closest of the leading battles we have in any of our 4 categories.
Dunlop curve, that right-hander. Oh.
What's happened there? Baumeister's gone entirely. So I looked away for a moment at the timing screen and he's gone. Apologies if we missed that. But Baumeister was right in the wheel tracks of Mac McFarquhar in the lead of LMP3 AM, and all of a sudden he's gone on the traction zone out of the first chicane.
So yeah, he just completely lost, just looped it coming out of that Daytona chicane. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. So that's a great big opportunity now for Mac McFarquhar, who is now behind the Pro Class car of Kunsabo, and that's ideal for McFarquhar because it seems like he can run Kunsabo's pace, but now he can just tuck in there and just really soft throttle it, or do that. Or have a big dive at the opposite of Milzan. What are you doing?
Well, the sensible thing
is not sensible.
Well, exactly. The sensible thing would have been to do what you just said, but that's not what he did, and he's clearly not listening to us because he dived down the inside there. And I was going to add to your point that they would have the added nicety, I guess, added positive of the fact that they're in a different class. They're not really fighting with one another. They're not rivals in this race per se. They can work with one another just for this stage, but that's clearly not what he's set on doing. He wants to get as many positions as possible.
Yeah, I just don't see the theory in that whatsoever, unless Mac McFarquhar thinks that he is being severely held up, but I really don't think he is, and he's locking up all over the place. He's big puffs of smoke coming out of the car, and let's see what happened to Baumeister then. This is at the Daytona chicane, the first chicane on the Mulsanne straight, and just a little tank slapper. And he's quite... Yeah, it just backs it into the barrier there ever so slightly, but it just seemed like it swapped ends on him a little bit.
Yeah, I hope he hasn't done any damage there. Don't think he will have done because it was a very light tap on the wall, but you do never know with this. Ben Gregory's back up to second then in LMP3 AM, so that's quite a good recovery from him. He just got past Andy Jones for that position. He himself has had a good start to this race. Actually, he's up 8 places after starting down in 18th for this race. 1 hour 7 minutes remaining at Le Mans then. We're just starting lap 7. We've completed 6, so we need another couple from these drivers in LMP3, but we're going to get answers very soon to the pit stop equation. Are we going to see 2 stops or 3 stops here today? Some of those answers are going to be coming up at the end of this lap. If they have to come in after 7, then it will be a 3-stop race.
Well, we'll see if they do come in at the end of this next lap, their bed will be well and truly made of what to do, and then that opens up. We kind of almost want that to be the case, don't we? Because we want strategical opportunities to be opened up. Because then, where do you take your short stop? Do you do it now, or do you do it towards the end of the race? That's the question. That's where we want to see that excitement. The thing about Le Mans is, as well, is a very heavy circuit on fuel, because you've got huge full throttle runs, then big braking zones, then massive big full throttle run again. See, that's Craig Volicic or Volike.
Oh dear. That's
curb.
Big jump over the curbs, I'm afraid, for the winner at Sebring, of course, Froelich, but he's not having as good of a day here on this occasion. Traffic, by the way, is now a factor, as the GT4s, or at least the back end of them, are currently being caught. Matty Wild is the last of them still running, by the way, and they're all on the lead lap. None of the GT4s have had to take a trip down pit lane as of yet, but that will, of course, soon change because they're all running out of fuel at this stage. Should be 7 laps for the GT4s, which should be just enough as long as the leaders lap them 3 times, which is not always something you really want to rely on over the course of a race. 3 seconds is the gap out front between Nathan Moore and Nicholas Hyder. That is a gap that's come down quite considerably, actually, over the course of the stint. Jurgen Frank is in the wheel tracks of Hyder as well. The SimRC boys seem to be working together, maybe, to bring this gap of Nathan Moore down, or maybe the traffic has been doing it for them because they're well within it now.
Well, that might be what's Nathan Moore's perhaps not had the rub of the green with the traffic as the others have, but now Jurgen Frank getting their kind of dose of the traffic, and the gap's just rocketed up by 1.5 seconds in the time that we've just been on this point. It just shows you that traffic gives and takes. So it's all under control for Nathan Moore. Nathan Moore will also have to be keeping an eye on his fuel delta as well to check that he's hitting the number that he needs to hit in order to be able to win this race. It's all very well charging off like the rabbit at the start of the race, but if you've used too much fuel, you're stuck.
Yep, you've got to be careful with that, and I do wonder whether that's factored into his thinking as well, whether he's just thought to rein it in because of that. But it's, gone up to 4 seconds now. I think traffic is the more likely conclusion to that equation. Let's see if anyone will be in at the end of this one, though, as we already do have retirements in LMP3, by the way, for Ethan Critchley, and Anton Oman has been in the pit lane for a while. Not sure whether he's going to be making his way back out either, but let's see. Out onto the front straight again for the leaders. They will stay out by the looks of it, so the front guys have enough for a 2-stop race, and so you'd imagine that will be the same for most of the field as well, because if anyone's been using a lot of fuel, then it's got to be Nathan Moore with the pace that he has shown up front. However, as I say that, we got someone in there? No, it's just Mac McFarquhar using the pit entry there to open out the 4 chicanes, which of course they do, and is legal, of course, at this circuit. So just over 4 seconds now, the leading gap. The traffic playing a role here at Le Mans. The SimRC guys having to filter their way through it. That might well be a slowdown, though, for Jurgen Frank, and it wouldn't be the first one he's got today. I think he may have gotten away with it. No, he didn't. I think he's having to drop back as a result of that slightly. Well, if he does, then he's not really doing it, just for the moment. Staying where he is in 3rd place. Maybe he did get away with it, but they will be continuing on one more. It looks like this race is going to last roughly 24 laps, and that gives us enough for 3 8-lap stints over the course of the day.
Jurgen Frank, if he has got it, he's trying to serve it as cutely as possible, and the only thing it might have been if he got out of the power quick enough and turned sharply enough to the right, but the problem was in getting past traffic, the BMW GT4 car there, Jurgen Frank was very much in the inside line and couldn't really get the corner. The corner was then much sharper than it would otherwise been. That's why he went wide there. Mac McFarquhar appears to have seen sense and settled in behind Kunsabo, or he had done, yes he has, but a little bit, just 3.5 seconds further back, you've got Ben Gregory who's chasing down and setting a very good pace. So despite that mistake on lap 1, Ben Gregory is not out of it for this win in LMP3 AM.
No. It's a 47.9 from him last lap, which is actually faster than the leader, believe it or not. Andy Jones is the driver just behind him, by the way, as they filter their way in towards the 2nd Mulsanne chicane, in amongst heavy GT4 traffic now. And they'll all be in pit lane at the end of this lap, by the way, GT4s and LMP3s alike, which is going to be absolute madness for everyone. And it's going to feel very, very busy out on the lane. But now McFarquhar puts a few GT4s between himself and his rivals, and so they're starting to clear the traffic and get clear of it entirely. This is the battle for 4th place, side by side between the teammates. Matthew Gunnar-Thompson and Taunton and Thomas King, side by side there briefly. It's Gunnar-Thompson who has come out on top in that one as they make their way out of Arnage. They've almost cleared the traffic entirely, but we'll see whether some of the GT4s come back out ahead of them after the pit stop phase, which isn't impossible after this. because they'll all be in. So just around half an hour complete now. Nathan Moore has 3.5 seconds over the rest of the field, but we're about to see pit stops now at the end of lap 8, and we'll see how this affects the race, as that was close in towards the Porsche curves.
Just get held up a little bit there with some GT4 traffic, and the GT4 car, it doesn't might not look like it on screen there, but I can assure you the GT4, they're absolutely on the limit through there, hustling what is quite a big heavy car with not much aerodynamic performance through. No.
Wow.
Our LMP3s are, first of all, they're jumping over the curbs like touring cars. Second of all, they're going deeper into the stint than we perhaps anticipated.
Certainly deeper than I anticipated. Because, logically, I thought that at Le Mans, you're on full throttle for so long that you're going to be burning more fuel, but maybe that is not the case as we have a look at Paul Smith, who's inside the top 10 in GT4 AM at the moment. Looking for a quiet day, he told us earlier on, starting from the back today and looking to get through it without incident and accident, and he looks like he's achieved that so far.
That's exactly the approach to have. He's 9th in class at the moment, but he's going to go one lap longer than a lot of the GT4, so there's a split in GT4 then. Some drivers coming in now at the top of the half hour, and Paul Smith, he's going on now. He told us he was going to do 7 laps. And that's him going on to his 8th, isn't it? Yes, it is.
I'm pretty sure this is lap 8th lap, yeah. Unless I'm reading this and this is lap 8.
He is on. Yes, he's on to his 8th lap. He has completed 7. Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. So yeah, he was. Yeah, that is correct. So he's clearly lied to us, or was earlier on, because he said earlier that it was going to be 7. Well, clearly our worries about fuel are not going to be realised at all, because this is well over half an hour now, and as you said earlier, now it's going to go the opposite way. Not a case of can I make it, can I not, but where do I take this little bit of short fill, because there is going to be a lap or two spare somewhere here for you to miss out, if you like, in terms of refielding.
I think the idea would be to fill up to your maximum capacity. Of course, we've got 60% fuel capacity for the LMP3, a 50% fuel capacity for the GT4. I think the idea would be to take as much fuel as you can, and if you are going to put some tyres on while that fuel is going in, you want to do it at the first pit stop, so you've got that slightly newer tyre at the end, or for the second part of the race. The question is, do you bother putting tyres on? Because if you put 2 tyres on, you've not got time to put 4 on, but if you put 2 on, you've got a bit of an imbalance of the car, but also when they're not up to their full operating temperature, you really are giving away lap time there. So it's a decision for the drivers to think about, when we'll see if they go up on the jacks when they get to the pit stops.
Yeah, there's a number of things you have to think about there with the GT4s. The imbalance, first of all, but which 2 tyres do you take as well? You've got to consider that it's a low degradation circuit, so it's a difficult one to work out really in terms of which ones are you going to go for and whether you're going to do it or not. Some people may decide just to forget about it entirely. I'm almost disbelieving what I'm seeing right now. I know that I am seeing what I'm seeing, but someone can't tell me that you can do 1 hour and 10 at Le Mans in GT4 cars. That'd be outrageous, but maybe they can, because they're going on to an 8th lap now. You can't tell me they can normally do 16. It's unbelievable. But anyway, as I say, we're limited to 50% of normal capacity, by the way, in the GT4s and 60% in the LMP3s. That just opens it up to 2-stop racing rather than 1-stop racing, which will be very linear, especially in LMP3, if we left the fuel how it comes normally. Into the pit lane now then, after a slightly longer 9 laps here this evening, giving us a little bit of time spare, really. The top 5 have all come in so far. I can't see anybody else carrying on longer than this, although I've been wrong before, so let's see.
Well, I think we're going to get a bit of a pit party here for the LMP3s. What I'm curious to see is whether they go up on the jacks, which means they're taking tyres. If they stay down, it means that they're just putting fuel in. Nathan Moore, race leader, comes in. He stays as he is, so he's just going for fuel only. The 2 Sim RC cars behind, fuel only. Seems to be, for the leading drivers at least, Ewan, it's fuel only as the order of the day on this first stop.
Yep, And that remained the same at Sebring. There were very few tyre changes, even at that racetrack, of course, where does tend to be a lot higher than here. So I wouldn't be surprised to go without tyre changes in LMP3 today. Nathan Moore should be able to make his way out first, and there he goes. 29.4 was the, or 29.5, and a slightly shorter one from Sim RC. So 1 second shorter for Jurgen Frank and a half second shorter for Nicholas Heider. That's not going to do a whole lot really off of the bat here, but you just never know. The gap's just over 5 seconds. This is still a close race up front, even though Nathan Moore has dominated so far.
Well, I think it's where team play is going to come in to affect it massively. Eric Grove in GT4 leader, he's already had his service and going back out again. So yeah, I think that the team aspect is going to be really important, because you're going to need, if you have a teammate out there who's running close with you, like we see with the Sim RC cars, you've got to be able to do half of the stint, one car pulling the other along with the slipstream, and then switch over to do the same in the second half of the stint. That's the only way really that I can see Nathan Moore being beaten today. Of course, he can chuck it away with a mistake of his own, but to actually beat him on merit, that's the only way I can see where you're going to have to work together. And Sim RC, they're a well-drilled outfit. They'll know exactly what the strategy is to be able to do that.
Well, I've just seen a very crucial piece of information that apparently is not in the rules, and I can't find anywhere at the moment, but apparently it is true, and I'm going to trust it as well, because it's a trusted source. But Daniel Ferguson has just wrote to us in the YouTube chat and said there's increased fuel allowance for this race, so that explains an awful lot about what we're seeing right now. And I'd just like to say, where's that in the rules? Because we had no idea. Well, I had no idea anyway. So it explains an awful lot. It keeps us at two-stop racing, and that was late on the brakes from Mac McFarquhar. And Baumeister's going to go right round the outside of him. Well, after a spin earlier, thought Baumeister was going to be out of this, at least for the time being, but certainly not. He's right back in it again. Only 22.9 seconds in pit lane for him. Maybe that explains a lot, and it's got him back to the lead right now.
Well, Baumeister is going to go for the Danny Sullivan spin and the win here at Le Mans. That's normally an Indianapolis trick, but why not do it at Le Mans? Maybe you could try for the triple crown of spin and the wins: Indianapolis, Le Mans, and Monaco. Now that would be a rare gem.
Yes. We'll see if he can pull it off. Of course, he's got a problem later on when he's got a longer stop, the second stop. But anyway, he'll cross that bridge when he comes to it. I've found the bit of ruling, by the way, that explains to us the fuel caps for this race. It's 60% for the GT4s, as is logical, and 68 for the LMP3s. So just over 2/3 for them. That's allowed them to do an extra lap or so here today, and has given us two-stop racing and a little bit of dynamicness within that as well, with that spare lap or two that they'll have over the course to use wherever they want to here this evening. And of course, we noted earlier on that everyone was out together in qualifying. That's a bit unusual. That is a Le Mans ruling as well, that all of the drivers get half an hour on this occasion. Battle for the lead is not the only one in LMP3 that is going on. Andy Jones is fighting with Ben Gregory for 4th place at the moment, or 3rd place I should say. Andy Jones just trailing him in the number 4 car. It's all very close in LMP3 AM. The top 4 were ever so briefly in one shot there.
Andy Jones has been a standout driver in terms of one lap pace in LMP3 AM, so it has good speed underneath that number 4 car, but I'll have to work hard to try and get a move done on Ben Gregory. And the question is, only worth going to make a move if you feel you can pull away, and that's a big if. Mike McFarquhar, on the other hand, has lost the scent of Baumeister significantly. Now, for Baumeister, as you rightly say, Ewan, he needs to take a longer stop at the second and final stop in about 20 minutes time. However, if he keeps this pace up, he'll be able to make that up on the track.
Yeah, it's just a case of, can he stay away and continue to push on with that gap? he has done so far, but I have a feeling that McFarquhar made a mistake towards the end of that lap there, which maybe just put him away a little bit and maybe just increase the gap slightly between them. But of course we'll wait and see. It does seem to be the most engaging battle for the lead we have out there at the moment. A second and a half is the closest, just about. LMP3 Pro is quite close as well. There's 2 seconds and a half there with Jurgen Frank trying to chase down Nathan Moore. But in the 2 GT4 categories, things are staying apart and only getting further apart at the moment. Championship leader Josh Boots is leading the way in GT4 AM, and not only is he going to take the or keep the lead the way it is at the moment, but he is going to put some points into those behind as well, because he's not only leading the race, he's got 3 GT4 Pro cars between himself and the next AM, which really helps, of course, because GT4s score points from the same as do LMP3s, score points from the same system. It's not split into Pro and AM the way they score points. Of course, the standings are split, but the way that they score points are not. And so the more points or the more cars that Boot can put between himself and his nearest AM rivals, the more points he gains on them, if that makes any sense at all. He's currently leading though by nearly 20 seconds after not even half of this race.
So 49 minutes to go. Ben Gregory back up into the podium positions in class in LMP3 AM, with Andy Jones right in behind him there. Still holding him at bay for now in the LMP3 class, but will be tricky because on their outright best lap, Andy 0.8 of a second quicker than Gregory as they come down into Mulsanne corner. Really tricky because you're sort of turning and braking at the same time, but both drivers managing it beautifully.
Yeah, this is the battle for 5th place in GT4 Pro, or 4th place indeed. Christopher Smith is the one very close in behind Ben Palmer here. They are just under 20 seconds away from Eric Grove, who currently leads the way in GT4 Pro, but we really are settling into this race now, nearly halfway complete, and it does feel like everybody's consolidating where they are for the moment. The pit stops have spread everybody out a little bit, and everybody's got their eye on those final pit stops that are coming up before long. So we'll see what happens when we get there, of course. But for now, there's a case of saving here, really. I think we've seen the last 2 braking zones there for Christopher Smith. He could have found his way through, but chose not to, and chose to save fuel behind the Mercedes instead. He's moving around a little bit now, but doesn't look to be making any threats, really, to that 4th position.
In GT4 AM, the lead that Josh Bush has been able to accumulate is just remarkable. 18.5 seconds back to the Mercedes of Jeroen Kaiser. Quite remarkable, particularly when you add that the Porsche isn't necessarily the car to have, particularly on a circuit like this where it's all about power and grunt. So yeah, Josh Boot, amazing effort. Eric Grove likewise in the Pro category in GT4 and his Aston Martin. He's opened up a 5.8 second advantage to the Halfleton, the Hausler Mercedes number 81 is down as Halfleton on the timing screen.
Yes, it's a double name, and Irison doesn't quite know what to do, I don't think.
Yes.
With a double name.
Halfleton Hausler.
Yes, it's not a double barrel name. I don't know what you call that because we don't have them in England. But sorry for my ignorance.
It just sounds quicker, doesn't it?
Sorry for
Hausler.
Yes, but anyway, the Irising's not entirely sure what to do. So Michael Halfleton-Hausler will try and go through the whole name. But yes, he's in second, and that is the same person. If you're seeing those 2 names separately around, it's the same person in the same positions, of course. Finished 3rd last time out, of course, 3 weeks ago. currently on the podium again, but so is Eric Grove, and he's not gaining any points on him at the moment. Richard Simner is a long way down, and for some reason not enjoying Le Mans nearly as much as he was enjoying Sebring quite clearly a few weeks ago. Jurgen Frank is maybe enjoying it roughly the same, because he's in second again, as he was running for a little bit of time 3 weeks ago. He's now closing in on Nathan Moore. It's not going to be a cruise to the finish for the 88 driver, the winner at Sebring. It's going to be a challenge from here on in, and Jurgen Frank is going to give him that challenge by the looks of it.
Well, that is game on, and it's the last lap that's been the difference. Jurgen Frank has pulled the pin, a 3:43.1 best lap of the race for anyone, and that has got him to within that key slipstream range. So Jurgen Frank has decided, okay, if I go flat out and if I do no fuel saving whatsoever, I can possibly run down Nathan Moore. And that's exactly what he's done. It's not been Moore making mistakes, it's actually Jurgen Frank just really pulling the pin and going for it. And now that Jurgen Frank's in, you know, he's in slipstream range of Nathan Moore, then he can start to do his fuel saving. So we've got a proper race on our hands here between Nathan Moore, leader in the championship, and Jurgen Frank, third in the championship.
Yeah, proper race on there. Unfortunately, Piers Pryor not involved with them, of course. He fell foul to an incident early on in the race. In case you weren't with us, it was on lap 1 out of Tetrouche, and it was with Jurgen Frank. Actually, he did go into the back of the SimRC driver, ended up with severe damage there, I'm afraid, and still runs down in 19th position overall in the LMP3s. Further up front, the battle in AMS is very interesting indeed. Boimeister is leading the way, but of course has that longer stop to come later on. And was in second place. Mac McFarquhar, now he's down to 4th. Ben Gregory and Andy Jones both go through as McFarquhar locks up into Arnage, goes wide and loses 2 places.
So easy to do it. Arnage has got such a difficult camber to master there, and really easy to make a mess of it, and that's exactly what's happened, sadly. So Gregory now up to second with Andy Jones going in behind him there. So game on then, and Baumeister at the front, 5.3 seconds to the good in LMP3 AMS. So he's putting himself, yes, he does have to give back a little bit of that time at the next stop after taking the shorter stop in the first one, but that's interesting there, Ewan, because Baumeister, he's backed himself effectively there. He knew that in order to get back in touch with the leaders and get the track, he had to take that risk as slow down penalty for Andy Jones.
It must be a slow down penalty. He pulls out of line, makes sure he's served that before getting back on the power again. What a shame for Andy Jones, who drops back now to 4th again. This battle just keeps on changing and changing again. Is Baumeister going to end up winning this race after spinning at the first chicane? Well, it wouldn't be unheard of, but it would be a remarkable achievement for him. We'll, of course, hang fire on that. Still a very long way to go here at Le Mans. I think there's been an issue as well for Josh Boot, by the way, in the lead of GT4 AM, because he has dropped back quite a lot. He's now in 8th, which is quite a few positions further down than where he was. It was a 4:28 from him last lap, which is 13.5 seconds slower than his fastest. Now, I know we're not running fastest lap pace every lap, but he shouldn't be 13 seconds away from him, and his lead is more than half to Jeroen Kaiser now, who's in second place, and possibly with a new bit of added motivation to try and take that lead away in GT4 AM.
That's got to be a spin or an overshoot or something like that. That's a huge amount of time to lose there for Josh Boot. And his lead in GT4 AM has gone from 18 seconds to 5, just like that. So all of a sudden we've got a race in our hands again here in GT4 AM. You've got your championship leader leading in LMP3 Pro, in GT4 Pro, and in GT4 AM. It's LMP3 AM where the form book has really been shaken up.
Yeah, it really have, and can't wait to see how it's going to transpire over the course of the season as well, because this is going to have a lot of twists and turns throughout it, I'm sure. Andy Stewart makes up a place, by the way, in GT4 Pro. He's ahead of Chris Smith now after an overtake, and he's not far behind Ben Palmer either, but still back inside the top 5 again. There's Josh Boot in the Porsche curves. Now, is this a replay of what happened to him? or is this live pictures? Looks like a replay. Oh, it's a spin. Does he touch the wall here? Wow, he's gotten away with one there. It's not often you can go for a spin at Corvette and avoid the wall entirely. That was Josh Boot getting away with one, really, as the lead has changed overall. Jurgen Frank is ahead now of Nathan Moore.
Well, that I did not expect. It looked like Nathan Moore was just setting off into the sunset and not looking back. Well, how things have changed. What a middle stint this has been for Jurgen Frank. Quite remarkable driving. Oh, just launches it over the curves. The attitude of these LMP3 cars over the curbs, it is like watching a touring car. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's remarkable over the curves there. Yeah, I mean, it's something that's happened for a very long time in sim racing. The prospect of suspension breakage from doing something like that to a prototype is not really a worry, and so you get sights like that which are just impossible in the real world, but made possible before our eyes there. So Jurgen Frank now leads at Le Mans. Just less than 40 minutes remaining in this race. It's flown by, to be honest. Round 2 of the World Sportscar Championship, brought to you by WSR. And it's time to have a look at how that pass was executed. Frank with not necessarily a fantastic run off of Arnage here, but gets a good slipstream. And it's a long straight on the way into what, well, it's not straight, but it is a long flat out run towards the Porsche curves. He dives to the inside, and Nathan Moore leaves the door open, letting him through, and very nearly came to grief immediately afterwards with this Porsche. Just a moment later, Moore just skipped around that after Frank, and so Jurgen Frank is able to lead a lap for the first time here this evening. But the battle's not over between them. The two of them are pulling away from the rest of the field, and they're going to fight it out between themselves.
Well, game on at the front here. Jurgen Frank leading for now. Nathan Moore. Well, it does seem that Jurgen Frank is just able to pull away from Nathan Moore, and yeah, all of a sudden Jurgen Frank lapping in the 3-minute 43, the mid 343s, which is faster than Nathan Moore's been able to do all race. So Jurgen Frank has all of a sudden pulled out a dimension of pace that we haven't seen from anyone yet. I know, hopefully not more problems for George Boot here.
Well, he's just behind one of the Mercedes at the moment. Thought that looked like the Mercedes of Hafler Hausler, actually, but it can't be. I think it's Johnny Slater, maybe. He's just behind, pushing one of the Mercedes down the back straight there. Well, not the Mulsanne straight, I should say. That's a sight you don't often see. But yeah, who was that? I think it was Johnny Slater, just in front, unless it was one of those cars a lot way further back. But Josh Boot is still leading. At least he's found someone to draft with, but he has lost a considerable part of his lead, and you just wonder whether that mistake will be playing on his mind for the remainder of this race, and just how he's going to respond to that, because he's only got 7 seconds now. He can't afford to make a similar mistake.
Well, there's the gap now well beyond the slipstream. Range now. Jurgen Frank for Racing Sim RC looking very strong. Was third in the race last time out, and a win would put him in a good position heading into the third round of the championship. But 7, or what do we think? 7 or 8 minutes? 2 laps to the next pit stop?
Well, this is the end of lap 5 of the stints. They did 9 last time, didn't they? Yes, they did. 9 laps to start off, so he could have 4 more here. And I think these two took on the maximum amount of fuel as well. Unlike some others, like Boemies, who definitely didn't. Mac McFarquhar might have missed out a lap as well. I think Toby Ward and Craig Vrolik maybe missed out a lap. So I reckon there could be 4 more here for the likes of Jurgen Frank, who was really slowed up at the end of that lap. We ride on board with him now as Nathan Moore pushes him through the first sector, getting yourself straightened up in time for this first chicane as he monsters over the curves here, making sure he doesn't get a slowdown as he did earlier on in the race, which caused him to go from 3rd to 5th in this run down the hill. Now in towards the S's, towards Tetrus. He's going to get caught up behind one of the Mercedes. nearly clattered straight into the back of the GT4 there. He's negotiated it though, and now in towards Tetru's. Keep it within the white lines here. A slowdown is completely deadly to your race, and then you're out onto the Mulsanne straight. He's negotiated that first sector quite well because he's put about a second into Nathan Moore, who was on his tail as it began. But as they go down the straight, he's broken the slipstream, partly due to the traffic, I would imagine.
Yeah, Jurgen Frank took the risk and was rewarded just about into the rev limiter, but not quite there going into the Daytona chicane. It's quite remarkable how much corner speed these LMP3 cars cover. They've got quite a lot of aerodynamic performance compared to the amount of power that they have and the weight that they have. They are, quite in the hands of a top driver like Jurgen Frank to be able to brake so late and carry so much corner speed. Really impressive to watch. But I think in the draft you'll be getting close to the rev limiter, but with no draft, they pretty much perfect gearing there for the Sim RC Ligier, and charging downhill now, heading towards Mulsanne, one of the trickiest corners on the circuit. It's a kind of double right. The first right is quite quick and you're starting to brake. And a little bit of a lift and coast there with traffic up ahead. Very smart there from Jurgen Frank. Tries to carry corner speed and loses a little bit on the exit there, getting stuck behind one of the GT4s.
Yeah, he will have lost a little bit there, but he was smart on the way in to realise that he was going to lose some, and so thought, well, I better save that tiny bit of fuel if I'm going to lose time anyway. That might be the same in towards Indianapolis on Arnage as well, because there is a few more GT4s ahead. I think he might get away with this though. I think Nathan Moore's going to catch them at the Porsche curves, which is really bad. The LMP3 is relying a little bit more on aerodynamic downforce, of course, that is generated at higher speeds and through higher speed corners like at the Porsche curves, whereas the GT4s will be able to match the LMP3s quite well through slow corners like Arnage, where mechanical grip is a lot more important. Jurgen Frank pulls out a line then and will take these three GT4s on the way in towards the Porsche curves, but Nathan Moore will be slowed down by them through a section where you want to be able to use that downforce as much as possible. 3 cars between himself and the rest. Jurgen Frank has gone from a big deficit at the start of this stint to a big advantage by the end.
Well, this is just such a surprise, isn't it, from Jurgen Frank? It seemed like Nathan Moore had so much more pace than everyone else, and the race has just flipped on its head in the second stint. And Frank just making it look easy through the traffic, just judging it and anticipating it so well, taking the risk where risk is to be taken. Bang, bang over the curbs. Oh, there would be nothing left of the suspension damper if you went like that in a real one, that's for sure.
Or your fillings, for that matter.
Or your fillings, yeah. Well, good job that a lot of these cars are driven by dentists, so...
Yeah, very nice.
Pardon?
That's very nice. I was wondering how long it would take us to get into to dentist talk, but yeah, at least you can do your own afterwards. Anyway, they don't do that. Just over half an hour to go at Le Mans. Jurgen Frank very much in the lead now. 3 seconds ahead of Nathan Moore. What you were watching there, by the way, for that onboard was a very, very experienced driver doing exactly what he does best. Jurgen Frank has been around iRacing for, well, I've known about him for 8 years, and I don't know anyone, so he must have been around for a very long time, and so experienced is Frank, and has been at Sim RC that entire time as well, which can only help really, but the experience is accumulated throughout the years, and I know that this is a new car, but the same principles apply really, not necessarily in terms of driving, but in terms of traffic management. The experience that he will have gained throughout those years of iRacing and those years of endurance racing on iRacing will have really put him in good stead for a series like this, where it is sprint racing, which is not normally what you see him do, but it is multi-class racing, which all that experience, accumulated experience, will be so helpful for.
Multi-class, being able to do multi-class racing well is such a skill, and it really can only be done through, can only be developed through mileage, through time, all these iRacing special events, 24-hour races, 12-hour races, to understand what different types of cars are going to do in traffic, and finding little tricks at each circuit where you can, you know, save a bit of fuel and not lose much time, then make your way through and kind of reduce that risk, but also reduce the time loss as well. It's just such a special skill. It is.
And Jurgen Frank showcasing it to his absolute best ability there. We're currently following Andy Scheel on the back of Ben Palmer, by the way. It's the fight for fourth places. Unfortunately, I'm afraid to say, the LMP3 AM leader, Silas Krag-Vrolik, or championship leader I should say, has had a disastrous day today. He's back to the pit lane again now, and I think that was an escape back to pit lane to maybe spot the end of his day. It's been a complete disaster for the race winner from Sebring, and he's not been able to get on with Le Mans at all, of course. I mean, for me personally, Peter, it's one of my favourite circuits in the world, not only to drive, but only to watch as well. But it never occurs to me that people might be having a bad race here because they simply may not enjoy Le Mans, and that is a reality for some of the drivers on the grid, surely.
Well, for me, it's you can't. Well, as any race fan could attest, it's hard not to love Le Mans and the 24-hour race. However, for me, it's and I'm gonna duck now. For me, the Nordschleife is so much more interesting circuit, so much more challenging circuit, and frankly a better 24-hour race as well.
Wow, you've you're going to get some. Well, I suppose it's I don't know. I was about to say it's an unpopular opinion, but I'm not so sure it is actually. It's you know, a valid one, but one that will be debated. Put it that way, over the course of time, because yeah, people will argue till the cows come home about which 24-hour race is better, and so on. This is Krag-Vrolik again, I'm afraid, and oh dear, this is all wrong from the very start, and he's going to smack the wall there. The whole rear end comes off, and that will be back into the pits. Yeah, it's very similar, isn't it? Bodywork flying everywhere for him, unfortunately, for Krag-Vrolik, and he's back to pit lane now. I mean, that's one of the changes of this circuit, to be fair, that's been made in recent years. A lot more runoff there, but I'm not sure even the runoff that exists there at Le Mans these days would have saved him from that crash.
It just makes it less bad.
Yeah.
I think, which is important. And that's our championship leader, of course, in LMP3, Silas Krag-Vrolik, who's had, a disastrous day at Le Mans, and Joost Bouwmeester, his closest championship rival at the moment, has a 5.4 second advantage at the front of the field. Pit siren is honking here at Le Mans, and the GT4's in for their second stop.
Bouwmeester's in as well. So a few early stops here. One or two anyway.
Bouwmeester had done his short stop the last time though.
Yes, I hadn't spotted that first time around, but it's suggesting that 7 laps was the first stint for him, and McFarquhar only did 8 laps in the first stint as well, by the looks of this. So he'll be in at the end of this next lap, whereas most of the others will stay on for an extra 2. Daniel Sesley has already made his second stop, by the way. It was only 19.2 seconds. He's already been out for a lap as well, so he should be fine till the end, and really didn't have to put a lot of fuel in. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen between the two leaders, though. Jurgen Frank and Nathan Moore are separated by nearly 6 seconds now, but how much fuel have they got to put into the end? Who's been saving, who hasn't? What's going to happen between them? I'm not sure how the rest of the 27 minutes are going to unfold here at Le Mans.
Well, I think it would take Nathan Moore a lot of fuel saving to really to gain that amount of time back that Jurgen Frank has taken out of him in the second stint. The pace that Jurgen Frank has just pulled from underneath, it's like he's held almost a royal flush in his hand and thought, no, I'll not use that straight away, I'll not show it straight away, and then comes out of the second pit stop, bang, and all of a sudden he's in the low 340s. He's been in the low to mid 343s all of this second stint, and that is just a knockout punch you can't recover from.
And look at that last lap. A 43.2. I know he's low on fuel right now, but his tyres will be feeling slightly second-hand after over an hour in this race now. but he's still in the low 43s, in traffic as well. Not sure how much he had to deal with that lap. Wouldn't imagine there was a lot, but even so, what a lap from Jurgen Frank. He's absolutely flying right now, and based on this evidence, will not be caught at the moment. Although we said that before about himself and Piers Pryor actually at Sebring. I thought out of the three of them, Nathan Moore was the least likely to win. In the end, he did. So who knows, really? Jurgen Frank still with a long way to go here to close out this win as we now complete his 8th lap of his stint. He'll have one more until his final stop of the day to put another 6 laps of fuel in and hopefully keep all 4 wheels on the ground. He'll cross over the line again in the lead. There is the LMP3 AM leader, Ben Gregory, recovering from that spin earlier on to restore his leading position, which he took, of course, at the first stint of the race, excuse me. Then he had that spin at Corvette, and he's been recovering from it ever since. He's now back to the lead.
Yeah, but Baumeister, I think, will come back out when Ben Gregory takes his pit stop. Baumeister will regain the lead, I believe. Just coming back to Jurgen Frank, you're absolutely spot on, Ewan, that, you know, we didn't. You would think right now we would say Jurgen Frank's looking like he's cruising away with the win, but we were saying that about Nathan Moore in the first stint. He built up a similar lead over Frank and co. It's remarkable how the pace of this race at the front of the field has ebbed and flowed so much between the front runners.
Yeah, we've still got a lot to play out in the remainder of this race, and just don't know where it's going to go, especially in LMP3 AM where there's so many split strategies. You just don't know. Where's Daniel Sedley going to come out as well? He's made a very early last stop, of course, and is right back in this again, possibly for a podium place, but that could be a long stretch for him. We'll see. As far as he's concerned in LMP3 Pro, Ben Gregory will continue on for one more as well. I think the only one to stop this time should be Mac McFarquhar, who's completing his 9th lap here. He's not crossed the line yet, suggesting that he's still got the option to make his pit stop this time, and you'd imagine that he will do with the limitation on fuel. And yes, he is into the pit lane, so we'll have our first indication now as to where Baumeister will be in relation to McFarquhar, but McFarquhar has made a couple of mistakes in this last stint and dropped back a little bit from the lead.
So this Ben Gregory will be hoping for a quick in lap here, 3:47 flat. Last time by just 3/10 off his best, so that's strong pace. He's going to pick up a nice draft here off the Porsche of Josh Boot in the GT4 AM. Matt McFarquhar in, as we said. So in taking, I see the GT4s, they're taking their tyres, whereas the LMP3s, they're just deciding to stick with the tyres that they've got to go through the entire length of the race. Track temperature wise right now, what do we have? 24.4, so it's pretty much perfect conditions. Actually quite nice cool track conditions.
Yeah, it will be nice out there at the moment. So Mac McFarquhar makes his way back out again, and we'll see where he is in relation to these guys. But in relation to Baumeister, he is a good 8, well, further than that actually. He's about 12-13 seconds back now. So unfortunately, those mistakes may have put paid to his chances. It was a shorter stop, ever so slightly, but not by much, certainly not by enough. And there's work to do there for McFarquhar if he can over the latter portion of this race. Ben Gregory is now 7th overall, by the way. It is Daniel Sedley who's just behind him. The next guy is Andy Jones, and that is the second-placed AM driver there in LMP3. So that's worth noting, as the GT4s are now starting to make their final stops as well. Eric Grove still leads there. He's coming towards the end of another 8-lap stint here, and with the lead that he has over Affleton and Hausler, he should be fine to hold that lead as well. Josh Boot is yet to make his final stop, and so that gap to second place will be reduced. But it's time for the final stops. Jurgen Frank is going to lead us in, and Nathan Moore will follow him. And you'd imagine that the rest of the cars will do as well in LMP3. Still a lot of drivers yet to stop now.
Yeah, Jurgen Frank coming in with, like you say, with Nathan Moore right in behind him. Let's see, with none of the other LMP3s that I've seen have gone for tyres at this stage. Nope, just fuel. Has Nathan Moore got anything up his sleeve? It just seems that Jurgen Frank, a little bit of a steady pit entry there for Nathan Moore. That'll give away a tenth or two of a second. Filling up the fuel they go. And does Nathan Moore have anything up his sleeves tactically to hang on to Jurgen Frank? It really doesn't look like it, as Jurgen Frank goes out back onto the circuit with 20 minutes to go. And yeah, this is Jurgen Frank's late race to lose now.
It's going to have to be speed for Nathan Moore to take this one away. They're all in the 19s, by the way. Jurgen Frank, Nathan Moore, Nicholas Hyder, Thomas King just dips over into the 20-second stop there. But for the most part, 19-second stops for those leaders. LMP3 AM is going to be the interesting one then. But Ben Gregory's still yet to come in, and Andy Jones as well. But they are now making their way down pit lane. Here's the battle in LMP3 AM. It was Jost Burmeister who was fighting with them earlier on, but if other evidence is to be believed, then Gregory and Jones are going to gain 6 seconds in terms of pit stop time here if they get it right. There's Burmeister in the main part of your screen. He's ripping round the outside of one of the Porsches and the Porsche curves as well. He's on a mission. He knows what's at stake here on this lap.
I wonder if he's a little bit too far back to make it out in front of Ben Gregory. This is going to be really, really close because Baumeister's just coming up out of Corvette and through towards the Ford chicanes now. Yeah, Ben Gregory's on the move. I think Gregory's going to come out in the lead here. I thought Baumeister had enough in hand, but no, Ben Gregory has played this perfectly. Gregory hits the loud pedal, heading up through Dunlop. Baumeister is not into the entry of Dunlop yet.
No, so Baumeister's going to be third. Jones is ahead as well. Jones is ahead as well here. So Ben Gregory holds on to the lead. Christoph Weitz is in there as well, by the way. He's a pro driver, of course, but will be for Baumeister to negotiate. Well, this could be a problem for everybody here. And after all, Ben Gregory didn't even maximise his stop there, in my opinion. He did a 21.4 second stop, and others have shown that you can get away with only 19 seconds worth of a stop there. Now, admittedly, we don't know their fuel levels on the way in. However, you would suggest that Gregory maybe gave away a couple of seconds there, and Baumeister's not even anywhere near, really. So Gregory has got the lead, and it's by quite a margin as well.
Well, this is now where anything can happen now in traffic for these LMP3 AM drivers. Jost Baumeister has got to take the risk now. If he wants this victory, he's going to have to really go for it in those 50-50 situations in traffic. If you're thinking, oh, do I brake early and stop in behind? No, you go for the dive bomb. If you've got any ambition to win this race for Jost Baumeister and for Gregory, it's a difficult position. Does he go that same attack, or does he try and conserve, and then do you get passive? These are all the doubts that can sometimes creep into the driver's mind. In GT4, Eric Grove just marching on at the moment with a 20-second advantage, and Josh Boot with a 11-second advantage in the AM category. So Aston Martin and Porsche at the front of the field in the GT4 categories.
Yeah, that was the case actually in Sebring as well. It was Aston Martin, Porsche, Mercedes on the podium. Doesn't quite look like it's going to be that order, but similar manufacturers up front. Great to see the spread of manufacturers in GT4, by the way. It seems to be really balanced here, and there's a nice mix up front. Richard Simner is on your screen here. He's the second car in line in the Porsche, the white, blue and black, just trailing the Mercedes of Johnny Slater up front, and then just in behind, benefiting from all of this, is Jeroen Kaiser, who's 11th overall in the GT4s, but more importantly, is second in GT4 AM. Now, he has been losing time now to Josh Boot over the course of the last half an hour or so, ever since that mistake was made from Boot, that spin out of Corvette. We thought there was maybe a race on in GT4 AM, but not to be. I think Kaiser is too far away, even with the assistance he's going to get from these two in front of him. I think the gap at more than 10 seconds with only a quarter of an hour to go is a stretch too far.
Still plenty to play out, I think. Jurgen Frank, meanwhile, at the front of the field, 7.3 seconds to the good from Nathan Moore. If they finish as they are, Nathan Moore will still maintain the lead of the championship, but only just from Jurgen Frank, and it sets up a tantalising prospect when we head on to the next round.
It does. It's going to be very close as to who actually, because at the moment, Moore's going to get 5 bonus points, 2 for the pole and 3 for the fastest lap. So actually, he's going to score more than Frank at the moment, which doesn't seem correct, really, does it? But it is true, and I guess the way you can look at it is that Frank is preventing it from being worse by finishing ahead of him. But still, Moore seems to, and that's why, by the way, if in case you were wondering, when I was reading out points earlier on, in case you were wondering how people could be on the same points after only one round, it's because of bonus points that you get for fastest lap and pole position, 2 for pole and 3 for fastest lap. So at this stage, Frank would actually lose another 2 points. So I guess, as I say, I guess he's not preventing it from being any worse, but even so, it will be a bit of a demoralising one when he looks at the results at the end of the day and realises that actually I've taken a step backwards despite the win here.
Well, it just shows you how important the qualifying is. Fastest lap, getting that, and of course here at Le Mans, the fastest lap, you've kind of got to get lucky with a toe. You've been able to, in order to get that really ultimate quickest lap, getting a slipstream on the straight is so important.
And of course, getting a good run with the traffic as well, you very much need. So we continue in the main part of your screen to watch the battle for what is 8th overall in GT4, or 9th, I should say, overall in GT4, and 4P8 in GT4 Pro, while also monitoring in the bottom right the battle for first in LMP3 AM, and Ben Gregory did stretch that gap to 4 seconds at one stage. It's now down to just 2.5. Andy Jones benefiting from the slipstream of Christoph Weitz, who just got in front of him a few moments ago. So maybe it's not over there either. 14 minutes remaining. Still got 5 laps to go at the line, I think. Well, we are at the line right now. Looks like 4 or 5 maybe remaining in this race. So plenty of time, and Ben Gregory is not home and hosed just yet. In fact, it's the only leading gap under 10 seconds at this stage, because the other class leaders are looking fairly strong.
Yeah, the really strong position for Josh Book. 10 seconds to the good, although Jeroen Kaiser is just nibbling a second or so here and there, but it's Josh Book's to lose with 13 minutes to go. Eric Grove, 20 seconds the gap at the front, and then Jurgen Frank, well, he's just been incredible. And what I haven't seen a race in a long time, Ewan, where a driver has kept their pace so under wraps in that opening stint and then just unleashing it in these final 2 stints.
Yeah, it's been bizarre, really, the way that the race started. Now looking back, oh dear, off. Oh, Andy Jones, the driver we were chasing down for the lead there in LMP3 AM. He was trying to get that win away from Ben Gregory, but has a spin in towards Arnage. We've seen in the past how deadly that curb on the outside can be if you're braking late, of course, or braking at all, to be honest. It can really throw you off course very easily. We saw the smoke in the background, and Andy Jones emerged from it, and unfortunately, he's down in 3rd afterwards. A real shame for the driver of the number 4, who seems to have had his chances of a race winning class just taken away from him there at Arnage.
Oh dear. Well, in a way, it's Arnage again, which causes the problem. Such a tricky corner, but for Baumeister, this is now his opportunity. In 2nd place, 5.6 seconds, but up to Ben Gregory. If he can put the heat on, if he can get that time coming down, push hard, close that gap into Ben Gregory, you never know what might come his way.
No, he's just got to get his head down here, and well, they all have. Just try and keep going. So Baumeister's now 2nd. Andy Jones is in 3rd. Mac McFarquhar holds on to 4th, by the way, in LMP3 AM. Then it's John Roberts in 5th. Baron Glover is in 6th place. Toby Ward 7th, and Denise Pope is 8th. For the most part, others have had more than the necessary amount of stops and so on. So they're a bit further back at this stage. Still 11 minutes to go at Le Mans. Jurgen Frank leading the race overall, ahead of Nathan Moore and Nicholas Hyder. That's the podium overall in this race. Covered by 11 seconds, by the way, but none of them fighting with one another at this stage. Eric Grove still leads in GT4 Pro, with Haflidas and Hausler in second and Osborne third. And Josh Boot still leads in GT4 AM, of course, where there are still fights. The second place man in GT4 AM is Joran Kaiser, who's just behind the battle between Richard Simner and Johnny Slater. Slater has just been passed by Simner there, who's now up to 8th in GT4 Pro as they complete another lap with 10.5 minutes remaining. We're holding to the end of the race now. At least those in good positions are trying to hold on to the end of the race. We're not expecting to see too much change from here, but anything can happen at Le Mans, of course. We've seen that even over the course of the last 5 minutes, but for those class leaders it will be about not doing anything special and really bringing it home now.
Yeah, let's keep it clean, keep it tidy, consolidate those positions. There isn't a huge, at this stage, not an enormous amount to be gained, but a huge amount to be thrown away if you're in a good position. And if you're Nathan Moore, probably a little bit shell-shocked, I would imagine, although in second place. Nathan Moore probably very shell-shocked by Jurgen Frank's pace. So you've got to think, well, let's just bring this home for second place, come back and come to fight another day at the next round. Ben Gregory, he's responded to Baumeister and is actually opening up his gap in the lead of LMP3 AM as well.
Yeah, all the leading gaps are starting to open now, apart from Kaiser, I suppose, who's still closing into Josh Booter here. Gap dips below 9 seconds. Kaiser is the sort of dark red fronted Mercedes you can see in the background of this battle, by the way, between Johnny Slater and Richard Simner, which doesn't seem to be going away quite yet either. And he's benefiting from this battle, especially on the straights with the slipstream. Can't afford for them to fight too hard, otherwise he will start to see the downsides. But for now, he is benefiting. And Jack Osborne now has caught Haflidas and Hausler for second place. So, well, we're not going to get a battle for the lead in GT4 Pro. We are going to get one for second. And Osborne has finally caught up to the Mercedes in front. Didn't think we'd see this, actually, because it's been so long and drawn out over the course of this race. But in fact, Osborne is on the back of the Mercedes, and these two are going to fight it out for the last 8 minutes.
Fantastic stuff, and the little plucky Porsche looking very strong there in the hands of Jack Osborne. Meanwhile, Christopher Smith trying to make the move here in the number 83 BMW M4, the older model of the BMW M4. We've got the I think this one's the F82, and it's the G82, I think, is the next one that has just come into competition this year, if I'm getting my BMW nomenclature correct.
I'm going to leave that to you because I'm going to get it wrong.
The mess.
I don't know, but yes, certainly the BMW M4 to give us.
Oh no, I was right.
Yeah, well, there you go. Don't doubt yourself.
Quick Google.
Yes. Yes, 3 manufacturers in the top 4, by the way. 3 manufacturers on the podium, I should say, with Aston Martin, Mercedes and BMW.
Oh, 2-car crash.
Oh, yes. And that's, well, what's going on there? It's for second in GT4 Pro. Haflidas and Hausler's off the road. I think he's one of them. So, yeah, Osborne, Jack Osborne has benefited from this. Haflidas and Hausler has not only lost second, but I think he's lost a podium now, with Ben Palmer very close in attendance. Wonder whether there were LMP3s involved, because there were a lot of them around as well. But once again, it's at Corvette, which seems to have been the culprit of most of the incidents here this evening.
It has been a hot spot for action. Corvette, Arnage, a little bit of Tete Rouge in there as well. All the known Le Mans danger spots, really. But Jack Osborne, he's looking in his mirror going, where did everybody go? He's now in a very comfortable second position. Not quite as comfortable as Eric Grove in the lead with a 25-second advantage, but nevertheless, tell you what, when we go to next round, I did think there was a McLaren involved. Was So it's Andy Shield in the Pure Sims McLaren. So this all kicked off from.
Oh, and he gets hit.
Andy Shield gets nerfed out the way. Now, Andy's one of the series organisers. That's not a sensible thing to do. Nerf off the series organiser, or particularly the series sponsor.
No, and that's the second time in 2 rounds as well. Andy Shield was right up there at the Sebring round as well. He was 1-2 with Eric Grove at the time as he got into an incident on the back straight, and he's been nerfed off again, I'm afraid. I think he's actually soldiering on here and will do for the final 5 minutes, because there's only 5 minutes left after all, and there's not much point in continuing on, actually. However, sorry, there's not much point in pitting. There is point in continuing on, I should say. And Shield is going to do exactly that, but the lack of straight line speed for that McLaren surely now is going to be killing him. And Matthew Crisp is going to get through, and I believe has done there. Havlison Hausler is now battling with Ben Palmer, and I think he's going to have quite a fight with Palmer to try and hang on to that last podium place, because something happened to him, and we're about to find out what it was. We go past the scene of Andy Shield's accident, which happens almost as this one happens. He tries to get his nose at the inside of Corvette and spins them both around. Well, I've got to say, that wasn't maybe the smartest thing to do.
Well, that was about a 1% move there, and the odds were correct. Oh dear, that's a big opportunity lost there for Michael Hausler Haflison. What a pity. So much to throw away in these late stages, and now you really just want to get the car over the line clean, pick up the points and head on to the next round. I tell you what, here at Le Mans you wouldn't really pick it as a circuit that's very difficult for traffic, but when we go to Watkins Glen next time out, and that is a circuit where traffic could be an issue. It's very fast, it's very narrow, and you think about places like the S's, the LMP3s are going to have to be very, very patient through there, and I'm not sure if they will be.
Yes. Of all the circuits on this calendar, and it is a great calendar by the way, as we saw earlier on, that is the one I fear most at Watkins Glen, I've got to say, of the 6. So we'll see how that pans out in 3 weeks' time. Make sure you join us here on RaceSpotTV as we follow Ben Palmer pushing Havlison Hausler in towards Indianapolis. By the way, Havlison Hausler was trying to go down the inside of a lapped car at Corvette there, which maybe gives you a little bit more of an explanation as to why he tried a move there, but I still don't really think it's justified. I think it was a low percentage lunge really, and it's cost him second place. Jack Osborne has got through, and he's now got Ben Palmer behind him as Havlison Hausler, so not really done himself too many favours there. Andy Shield now down to 7th, I'm afraid, and he's continuing to lose places as a result of a lack of straight line speed now in that McLaren, but he is continuing on. He is going to try and get to the end of this race, and fair play to him if he does. And pick up the points that will come with that as well. Speaking of points, Nicholas Hyder has taken a few points away from Nathan Moore here, because he's now got the 3 points for fastest lap. And so Jurgen Frank is going to gain 1 point on Nathan Moore today as a result of winning the race. So his teammate has helped him out greatly there.
Well, just 2 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock now, and this is where you just want to just keep it nice and neat and tidy for those the last lap or so and collect the points. Jérôme Kaiser's had a very, very strong third and final stint. He's brought the gap down to Josh Boot slowly but surely. It's now down to 7.5 seconds. It does seem though, units, it's going to be a little bit too little too late, but a very strong run nonetheless for Jérôme Kaiser, and given that he's not in the top 5 in the championship coming into this round, this is very, very valuable points for the Team Mad driver.
Kaiser's going to be really slowed at the end of this lap though, I'm afraid to say. He's lost a bit of time there. The gap now back to nearly 9 seconds again, and he will now try and go through actually on 3 wide with the driver of Johnny Slater, who was fighting with Richard Simner there. Inside at turn 1. Oh, we're given the outside for the first braking zone. Slater goes in deep. Kaiser loses more and more and more time, and Josh Boot breathes an even bigger sigh of relief with every moment of that as well. So Yes, Kaiser's going to be picking up some good points from this, but I'm afraid it's not going to be a win on this occasion. By the way, I don't even think he was there for the opening round at Sebring, unless I just can't see him in the standings for the moment. Fürstenhauser holds on to third place even longer. He's still ahead of Ben Palmer. Just over a minute remaining though, and the leaders are now on their final lap. It is lap number 24 of this race, a final 6-lap stint for Jurgen Frank to bring this one home, and he has lost a bit of his lead in this stint, but not much of it. He's still got plenty to spare in the final moments of this race.
Yeah, it's been a superb run from Jurgen Frank and just came alive after the first pit stop, and the pace, particularly in that second stint, was just mind-blowingly good. I mean, his best lap of the race, a 3:42.5. Nathan Moore's done a 3:42 flat, which is even more impressive, but Nathan Moore will be kind of scratching his head thinking, I had that race in hand. Where on earth did that pace come from Jurgen Frank?
Yeah, it's a bizarre one to look back on, really. The way that Frank drove in that first stint compared to the second stint, especially where he not only chased down Moore, but completely obliterated him as well. And now Sim RC really coming into the fray with Nicholas Heider as well. If this went on for another fourth stint, maybe, if it was a 2-hour race, then Heider might be able to take Nathan Moore as well, because that gap is there for all to see on your screen. Then it's Thomas King in fourth place ahead of his teammate Matthew Gundia-Taunton for GTA Red. They're going to have a good day in the Teams Championship by the looks of things. They're both up there. It was GTA Pink who had the best of things, really, with Piers Pryor's second place at Sebring, but GTA Red will climb those standings most likely with this result here at Le Mans. Final lap now official. The time has elapsed. Just a few more corners for Jurgen Frank, and a little bit more traffic as well to deal with before he can take his first win of the season.
Well, it's been imperious, hasn't it? Jurgen Frank coming through the Porsche curves for the final time, and then up towards Corvette. A little bit of traffic to negotiate, but what a drive, and quite honestly stamping his authority as a real championship front runner. He'll be looking forward to Watkins Glen in a few weeks' time.
Into the final chicanes, Jurgen Frank is already flashing his lights. He knows what he's about to achieve. The checkered flag waves here at Le Mans, and it waves for Jurgen Frank. He is the winner of round 2 of the World Sportscar Championship here after 90 minutes at Le Mans. The Sim RC driver is the LMP3 Pro winner, and will close that margin in the championship just a little bit to book his spot in contention with Nathan Moore, who he beats today at Le Mans. Nicholas Heider will join him on the podium in a great day for Sim RC as a team overall. A little bit further back, it's going to be Ben Gregory who's going to hold on to the win in LMP3 AM, although he does still have a good portion of the racetrack still to go. Jost Burmeister is not too far away from him in the background, and so we'll give him a challenge right to the very end. However, it's going to be fine for Ben Gregory. Over the line, by the way, for Josh Boot as well in GT4 AM. He just got lapped there right at the very end. He will take the victory there, and by quite some distance it was as well. He just got ahead of Andy Shield, by the way, towards the end, who really fell away as a result of that damage. There's Ben Gregory, though. Probably the most engaging class that we've seen today, Peter, was the LMP3 AM class, and in the end, Ben Gregory, despite that spin at Corvette, was able to come out on top.
Yeah, spinning the win for Ben Gregory by the looks of things in LMP3. Great run from him. Best lap time, 45.4. Very strong pace for the boosted driver. And yeah, he again, another driver who didn't have a top 5 position in the championship coming into this round, but he's come out of Le Mans in a great spot.
He certainly has. Issues at Sebring. Victory at Le Mans for Ben Gregory in the LMP3 AM Championship, just beating Jus Boymeister by a very small margin at the end. Andy Jones threw away a chance to go for the win there, but will be able to console himself with third place ahead of Mac Farquhar, who was also involved in that fight for the race win right up until the final stint of the race. Further back, Eric Grove is completing one more lap than the entirety of the rest of the GT4 field, by the way, due to the way that the lappery has worked over the course of today's race. He's going to be scored a lap ahead of the rest, and thankfully he'd already thought this situation through, because he's put an extra lap of fuel in, and I hope that he'll be able to get to the end of the race.
Yeah, let's hope so for Eric Grove. Meanwhile, Ben Palmer, side by side through Porsche cars. Oh no.
Okay, so that was earlier with Ben Palmer and Michael Havliderson-Hausler. They were still fighting for third place, remember, and unfortunately made contact on the last lap through the Porsche curves.
Oh dear, that's the last thing you want to be doing. It's very, very quick through there, especially GT4 car. You're really having to manage the weight. There's not much aerodynamic performance available in a GT4. Good mechanical grip, but quite a heavy car as well. You take the Porsche, for example, it's only 100 kilos lighter than the road car. So they are heavy animals, and going through, you're really hustling going through Porsche curves. You don't want to be going side by side through there.
Yeah. So Eric Grove makes his way in towards the final turns now, and he will be able to enjoy this victory. He won at Sebring, of course, taking the compliment of fastest lap as well as he went, and he will also be able to take the race win here at Le Mans. It was pole on that occasion as well here at Le Mans, and now he's going to take the full 45 points for a fastest lap too. So this World Sports Car season couldn't have started any better for him. Into the final corners for the Pure Sims SimLab driver, and Eric Grove is a two-time race winner in the World Sports Car Championship in just 2 rounds here, the second of which coming at Le Mans. He flashes the lights as he goes across the line, and he will be able to enjoy this victory as Aston Martin are on top in GT4 once again. Let's take a look at the race results after 90 minutes of racing here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. In the end, it was not so close for the overall race win, but there was a good race throughout for that position, and Jurgen Frank was able to take the win by 6.5 seconds in the end ahead of Nathan Moore. Nicholas Hyder was threatening at the end, but has to bring up the rest of the podium. Thomas King and Matthew Guntier Taunton round out the top 5. Daniel Sesley's early stop has given him 6th place ahead of Gurgly Consabo. Then Christoph Vates, Piers Pryor, the final drivers on the lead lap. Piers, of course, recovering from that lap 1 crash with Ethan Critchley, never returning from the pit lane after only 3 laps. LMP3 AM was won by Ben Gregory, of course, in the closest of the categories for a gap between 1 and 2. 2.8 seconds at the end to Jurgen Boymeister. Andy Jones will join them on the podium with Mac Farquhar and John Roberts also inside the top 5. Toby Ward and Baron Glover were about 90 seconds back, with Denise Pope in 8th. Paul Joseph Klist and Nicholas Salaputis failed to finish on the lead lap. With further back retirements, I'm afraid, from Anton Oman and some of the others as well, like Craig Vrolik, who finished in 11th, and so on. Eric Grove scored a lap ahead of the rest. It wasn't that big of a gap in the end. It was less than 30 seconds, but he scored a lap ahead of Jack Osborne and Ben Palmer, who were also on the podium. Matthew Crisp and Michael Havliderson-Hausler are also inside the top 5 in a good day for the AM Racing team by Alcantech. Christopher Smith 6th ahead of Andy Shield, who limped home to 7th. Richard Simner beat Johnny Slater to 8th place after their late battle, with Paul Zanatachi rounding out the top 10. GT4 AM was won by Josh Boo, and that wasn't in much doubt from the end. Joran Kaiser actually lost a lot of time towards the end in those battles. Howard Hassan and Adam Locke were 3/4 of a minute back or more, and Mark Cullercutt rounds out the top 5. Our very own Paul Smith finished in 6th place for Team Mad. Evangelos Natafas finished in 7th ahead of Gary McFarlane, who was the last driver on the lead lap. Fludi Johansson was 9th ahead of Jack Wilkins, both of them a lap down and inside the top 10. Well, that's it for 90 minutes of racing here at Le Mans. Let's take a quick chat to some of these drivers who made the racing here this evening, starting with Jurgen Frank, who wins the race overall. Jurgen, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and a great win from you as well. But we were a little bit confused, I've got to say, watching the pace of yourself and Nicholas to an extent as well. You didn't seem to be so quick, and you seemed to be taking things easy in the first stint at least. But then you really bought into the race, and throughout the second stint, you were unbeatable. You weren't matched either in the final part of the race. Just what was going on at the start of that race there that saw you down in as low as fifth at one point?
Yeah, hello, good evening at first. We were running a low drag setup. We thought it is worth because of the traffic and the fuel. And yeah, the outlap on cold tires is so sketchy. I had a lot of problems, and in Tertre Rouge I got a lot of understeer, had to slow down quite a bit, and Piers Pryor hit me from behind, pushing me into the slowdown zone, and apparently he unfortunately crashed. And yeah, with the fresh set of tires and the first stint, it was quite okay when the tires were heated up, but second and third stint with the worn tires, the setup was flying like a rocket.
And you certainly made use of that throughout the middle part of the race. What about the traffic over the course of the day? Because it felt very, very busy at Sebring. It was an exciting race. It was a very intense race by all accounts. But what about here at Le Mans with a longer circuit, a little bit wider maybe? Did you notice the traffic effect that it had on the race? Did you think that it had a bit of a maybe less effect than it did at Sebring a few weeks ago?
Oh, I don't know. The effect was still very strong, dependent on where you get the traffic. You have a lot of long straights. When you get it there, you're lucky, and if not, you lose 3 seconds. And yeah, in the second stint, I had like 2 or 3 laps with the best traffic I had in my whole iRacing career. And yeah, that's where I knocked Nathan out, I guess.
Certainly so. Congratulations, Jurgen, on the win here tonight at Le Mans for round 2, and we look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks' time for the next round.
Yeah, I hope so. Was a lot of fun. Thanks for broadcasting, and see you next time.
Yes, see you next time. Jurgen Frank, the winner at Le Mans here tonight in the World Sports Car Championship for round 2. And his teammate Nicholas Heider joins him on the podium as well. We'll bring him in too. Nicholas, a great day for the team overall. You finished in third, Jurgen in first. The two of you are only 10 seconds apart as well. A great overall day for you and the team.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. And preparation was nice, and yeah, we were preparing the car a bit in the practice still, but it was only a slight change, so we had a better balance. And then it was a rocket ship on the straight, and we could control it pretty nice, I guess.
Yeah, Jurgen was mentioning a lot of understeer, especially in the first part of the race, and having to deal with that. Were you two running similar setups, maybe the same setups, and experiencing kind of the same things throughout that race?
Yeah, we had the exact same setup, so I had the same problems as him, so it was pretty hard in the first few laps, and with the one tires, it was getting better and better, and pretty easy to drive.
And what about the rest of the season now? Because the season didn't get off to the start that I'm sure you wanted at Sebring, of course, but is this kind of result more what you're aiming for over the course of the season? Is kind of podiums where you're going to be over the course of this season?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward for the season, and I'm aiming to achieve those podiums again.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing it in a few weeks' time. Nicholas, thanks very much, Frank, thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us, and congratulations on P3.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much, Nicholas Hyder. Third place here at Le Mans tonight in LMP3 Pro, that is. In LMP3 AM, it was Ben Gregory who took the win, and he joins us now. Welcome in, Ben. Good to have you with us as well. I said earlier on in the broadcast that LMP3 AM probably had the most engaging battle between numbers of drivers who were able to win that race. Is that what it felt like to you, with sort of 4 drivers with a legitimate chance at winning that race?
Oh yeah, like we had, I think it was Mac. We had Mac, Andy, and Just, all of us really scrapping for the top spot on in AMI, but everyone was fighting so well. Like it was so super clean. Everyone's been really respectful. But yeah, I think all of us made a mistake. Some of us came off slightly worse than others as well. But yeah. I'm just really happy I finally finished this week.
Yes, that couldn't have been said, unfortunately, for you last time at Sebring, of course, so it's a good way to bounce back. But you very nearly didn't finish again, I suppose. In another world, that incident that you had at Corvette could have gone worse, I suppose. Just tell us about that incident itself. And I've got to say, you weren't the only person to have a spin or incident at Corvette. Was it one of those corners where everyone was kind of on edge through there throughout the race?
The problem is, like, I don't think my car. So our setup wasn't really on edge as much through there. We were actually quite confident through the Porsche curves. I think a lot of other drivers were running low drag, like super low drag, so they were a little bit more skittish. Because we were right. I think it's just a mistake from me. I just tapped the back when the car was loaded up. I got saved by the new gravel physics, which was fantastic, at least.
Yes, it certainly prevented you from hitting the wall, as maybe would have happened in the past. But as you said, everyone made some kind of mistake at some point, and you were able to benefit from that. So congratulations on the win, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us. We look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks' time. Yeah, cheers. I can't wait for it. Thanks very much, Ben Gregory, the winner of LMP3 AM here tonight at Le Mans. And now, finally, we're going to speak to Michael Hausler at the end of this one, just quickly to find out what happened from his perspective at the end of that race. Michael, welcome in. Good to have you with us. A top 5 for you today, but I'm not sure how you're going to feel about it, to be honest, whether you're going to be pleased with the top 5 or disappointed with the late incidents. Just tell us what happened there on the last lap in your battle for that final podium place.
Yeah, well, it all started a few laps before. I caught up to a back marker, GT4 that was being lapped, and he lifted off, almost at the same place, actually. Lifted off. I thought he was letting me by. I went on the inside and he just turned in, which in the beginning lost me P2, which then kind of derailed my race a bit, and then I haven't seen the incident really, but we had contact, and he tried to let me by, which was nice, but I had a slowdown since then, so I didn't want to get that over the line, so I braked, and I mean, it was nice of him to let me by, but yeah, I mean, P5, it's still a good result, but it stings, because today I actually felt like I had a pace to challenge Eric before I made a mistake and lost his draft.
And what was the Mercedes like in comparison to the other manufacturers? Because we've got a great spread in this season, which you don't always get in GT4 racing. There's lots of different manufacturers at play. Was the Mercedes particularly enjoying the long straights at Le Mans, or will the Mercedes prove to be a little bit stronger maybe at next time, like at Watkins Glen, when there are a few more twists and turns?
For sure it enjoys the long straights. But to be fair, in Sebring it wasn't that bad. Qualifying pace has not been that good in this car, but race pace, I feel like it's much stronger compared to qualifying, so we can usually gain something in the race, which is obviously nice, but I mean, I think just focus on getting top 3s for the rest of the season with this car. I mean, we have Monza coming up later also, and Daytona finish off the season, so I mean, we still have some strong tracks for the Mercedes for sure.
Absolutely. Good luck with that and the next round, of course. Michael, thanks very much for coming to chat to us, and we'll see you out next time out.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much, Michael Hausler there chatting to us. 5th place at the end of 90 minutes at Le Mans. Well, Peter, we've had a great time here tonight watching that race, the World Sports Car Championship second round here for this season. LMP3s and GT4s delivering once again, but now we go from the longest circuit on the calendar to one of the shortest at Watkins Glen. It's going to be quite a shock to the system in 3 weeks' time.
It is. It's a really tough circuit, Watkins Glen, and particularly there's certain areas of the circuit where they're one line, and for the multi-class kind of coexistence, that's going to be the thing to watch, particularly through those opening S's. But Watkins Glen, the annual 6-hour race, has been a staple of the global endurance racing calendar for so many years, an iconic test for our drivers.
And it's delivered once again here tonight. Next time, it will be Watkins Glen over the course of another 90-minute race. 3rd of October at 8 o'clock in the UK. That's 3 weeks' time, and same time, same place you found us here this evening. So we'd love to have you along once again and join us for the 3rd round of the World Sports Car Championship here for Season 1. A big thank you to everyone who's been tuned in this evening. It's been a pleasure to have you along for the ride as we visited Le Mans and the Circuit de la Sarre for 90 minutes of racing. Jurgen Frank taking it easy at the start, but with a flying finish, winning by over 5 seconds in the end. Who is going to take it next time? Well, make sure you join us in a few weeks' time to find out. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Peter Mackay with Hugo Louise behind the cameras once again. And until we see you in 3 weeks' time for the race at Watkins Glen, it's goodbye for now.